Thank you, Presiding Officer. I want to start by thanking the Equalities, Human Rights and Civil Justice Committee for the work done on this inquiry and the report. I think there are some really valuable points raised in here, and I look forward to seeing what impact it has. Miles Briggs was right there that we do need to be doing more post-legislative scrutiny, and the impact that that can have on how we make better law in future can be really, really strong. That committee has a great deal of responsibility, and its work programme has been very reactive to what's going on and where work is needed. So the time that's been given to this inquiry, from taking evidence to working on the report and now securing parliamentary time for debate, demonstrates how seriously the issues that were raised are being taken. Karen Adam, both as convener of this committee and in general, is a very strong advocate for BSL and deaf rights, always speaking up for them while ensuring that lived experience is centred in the conversation. I've often gone to her to ask questions, including when I had responsibility for equalities in government, and I've learned a lot from her in the last 4 years, and I'm sure many others here are in the same position. I know that this inquiry is something that meant a lot to her, and I think that that passion and care has come through in the detail that Parliament has been presented by the committee. One that struck me quite significantly is that I know she welcomed deaf mothers who are survivors of domestic abuse to Parliament last week, an event that the Deputy First Minister also attended. The specific experiences of deaf women and domestic abuse are also highlighted in the committee report, and I think it's notable that it's been mentioned by 2 other members of the committee in this debate so far. This is not an area of concern that I've really heard discussed elsewhere, so I think it's particularly important that it was given that space in this publication. From ensuring that domestic abuse survivors are able to engage with the justice system in the first place, to the concerns that were raised about deaf survivors being lumped in with disabled survivors in statistics rather than their distinct situation being recognised, deserves the attention that they've been given in this report. Some of my longest running and most difficult casework has been from BSL users, and that's not been because of those constituents or their situation. It's because of the scale of the challenges that they face, and that is so great that I know that I'm limited in how I can get them the change that they need within a parliamentary term. But they're not usually asking for slight policy changes that might improve things for some people at some point. They're often asking for help or access that would allow them to live their lives on the most basic level, to attend a hospital appointment, arrange social care packages, or go to school. The report from committee outlines how serious this can be in the healthcare section, recommending that work needs to be done on escalation when a caller to emergency services is deaf, or when a deaf person needs to access mental health appointments. The lack of BSL users within services like audiology, which deaf people are most likely to use, has also been highlighted. But this is a concern across the board. I've heard from people who have their education, employment, social lives on complete hold because they are waiting and waiting for care or interpretation services. Teenagers who are stuck in limbo during their formative years, years that they will never get back. And the committee's report goes into great detail on early years intervention as well, pointing out that deaf children may not be able to access childcare with BSL provision, arriving at nursery and primary school without any language. BSL users with mobility issues, neurodivergence or learning disabilities often find it even harder to make things work for them. And I think of particular concern is Alliance's evidence to committee, which outlines the deaf blindness is becoming more common, particularly with older deaf people experiencing dual sensory loss and feeling isolated, especially when they live in rural areas. As a Highlands and Islands MSP, I'm really concerned by that pattern, and I recognise that any service improvement for deaf people and BSL users must mean an improvement for those living anywhere in Scotland, including rural and island areas, not just towns and cities. BSL users have explained to me in my office that they've even struggled to take part in consultation exercises that were set up for them to get the evidence that only they can provide, because there isn't deaf-blind support or tactile BSL available, or folk are just expected to be able to read English, which is different to BSL English, or consultation documents and forms aren't being made available from the beginning in accessible formats. What most of these issues come back to is that we need more interpreters, more people working in public services who have BSL, including deaf BSL users. Acceleration of BSL education will also be needed to meet that demand for interpreters. Ultimately, this report is a reflection of the need to embed a human rights approach in Scotland's public services. The ability for deaf people to communicate, to participate fully and to access public services in their first language is the non-negotiable part of a rights-based society. I want to be very clear, Presiding Officer, to BSL users in the Highlands and Islands that I am here to help. I am very happy to arrange interpreter services for surgeries, work around the availability of those interpreters and ensure that my office is as accessible as possible for anyone. And even when it may take a long time, I am here to support BSL users to make the case for better support and access. I will continue to work with them, with Karen Adam and with others to highlight the areas of greatest concern for BSL users and argue for positive change. Thank you.